Right, so we're jumping right back into the build today. Right back into this wiring mess. So today, I guess it'll be like the fun part. We get to actually start to add more wires to the ECU. Start to add in our sensors, our coils, our injectors. You see we got the exhaust pipe on, welded by Raymond. Made this nice little temporary pipe. Don't really know what I'm doing with the exhaust yet, but we need an exhaust for the O2 sensor. So that's what this plug is here for. But yeah, got that situated. So we got the wastegate back on. Gotta put a spring in there before we start. And yeah, we're also gonna mount this up to the firewall today. I got a more compact riv nut gun, so now we can mount this up nicely right there. So yeah, we got a bunch of stuff to do. Let's just hop right into it. After several calls with AEM, we made this nice little diagram. Everything's labeled, super simple. It's actually really not hard, guys. So I know the box comes with extra pins and extra wires, but we're just gonna pull it out of this harness right here, since the box only comes with white wires and whatnot. These are all color coded, so these are all perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and unpin this from this wiring harness and pin it into the next. All right, just did this harness dirty and took it in part, unpinned every single wire and took all the nice ones. So now these already have pins on them, well, some of them. Now we can just insert them in. They should be long enough to reach where we have to go. All right, back in the car, a whole bunch of spaghettis next to me and whatnot. We got the ECU pin out right here, and if you look closely, you probably can't see in the camera because GoPros are not really good at focusing. Right there in the corner it says number 61. Going back to this diagram, you can see number 61. So you can see the numbers go from here to there high, and then vice versa, there to there low. So starting from 1 to 20, 21, 40, you guys get the picture. So all you gotta do is line this up with this, which is like this, the most awkwardest way. And you can see pin number 61 is that top corner right there, right there, right where my pinky is. This is actually fairly simple from now. If you already have all the wires pinned, what I mean by pinned is the wrong side. What I mean by pin is these little connectors that they supply in the box. Basically, you crimp it up, or you strip the wire, crimp it up, and basically this is how you can insert it into the ECU pinout wiring harness, whatever it's called. So by doing this, you then have a lead, nice long lead, and you send it off to whatever sensor, power, ground, or whatever you need to. So that's basically how this whole thing works. So now, being that I have an Evo 8 engine, Evo 9, 4063, it's about the same thing. Only thing difference between this and the other one, they also have an Evo 9 on here somewhere. Because this is already made for me, if you was to do it on like an application that AEM didn't do, they wouldn't give you the pins. So we need to pin our crank, our cam, our knock sensor, what have you. So because they already did it before, I can see that C1-25 is the crank. Super simple. If I didn't have this, I would have to go through the entire booklet to figure out what kind of crank and knock sensor, you know, pins I should use. Because you see there's crankshaft position, VR plus, VR minus, different cars use different things. But if you scroll down, I guess my car uses the most simplest things, just sensor Hall effect. And same thing for the camshaft, it's a sensor Hall effect. But for different cars may vary. Just read the outputs and all that stuff. and do a little research. Majority of the time this has all been done already. Everything could just be found on a forum. So yeah, back to the pinout. I guess I'll go through these first. I want to finish up the fuel pump first. The fuel pump, we're going to have to use a low side 3, and basically my free one that I'm not using is C-22. So C-22, low side 3, basically it's a ground switch, the same way with the others, like the fans and the other fuel pump. It's all ground related switches. So they use the low side switches. That's what that's called. So we're gonna pin this one first so I can finish up the whole relay and stuff out there in the bay. Then I'll start to work on the rest. All right, quick little lesson on how to pin. I don't know if it's just AM Infinity, but AM Infinity, it only goes in one way. So like I said, we have to pin number 22. Move the paper up. 22, this is 21 right here, and the next one over is 22. So it's right next to this pink wire right here. If your camera focuses, right there, right next to that pink wire, that dead space right there. And also if you look in the wiring diagram, it will tell you what this wire is and the wire next to it is. So if you look at that, you know that you're kind of in the right spot. But this thing only goes in one way. If you try and put it in the opposite way, I doubt I can get this done on camera with one hand. If you try and put it in this way, it starts to, it's like a pressure, it kind of fights you. So at least you know it only goes in one way. Just rotate it 180 degrees and shove it in the right way. You want to push it all the way in till you hear the snap, and I can't do it with one hand, so I'm going to have to show you guys. Alright, so you push it all the way in there until you hear a nice click. Now if you try and pull it, it does not come out like the rest of the wires here. The rest of the wires are snug, so is this one. Here's a nice little satisfying click, and that's how you basically pin. Now this wire is now connected 100% to this wire harness connector clip. So now we're going to feed this, because this is for the fuel pump. I'm going to feed this out to where these red wires are going, and eventually we're going to loom up everything. But the goal right now is to pin everything and to send all the wires their way. Also, AM was really nice enough to give you a plain sheet full with all the wires that you have and all the wires you don't have. Like I said, that pink wire was right next to this red and white wire that I just pinned. So just go ahead and make your life easy by writing down the color wire. So I'm going to write down red and white / white. Oops, that was more than like a W. And you know, make sure you guys have all these highlighted, so when you show your tuner that you actually have a separate fuel pump or flex fuel sensor, show them what pin it is, tell them what analog it is, tell them what such and such. There's pan, analog, and digital signal. So make sure you have all those ready for when your tuner asks which signal is which. Right, so now we have successfully pinned 10 wires, about 10 wires or so. We have every single wire labeled. I know my handwriting's not the best. I'm an architect, give me a break. Every single wire labeled. This little paper is amazing, honestly. Gray wire, gold wire, green and black, black and white. You know, all those wires labeled. That way we can, you know, figure out which is which. I already ended up running the wires that have to stay in here. Like this is like sensor power, the red, and then this is the black and white wire. As I said, this is for my 12 position switch. Might have to run more wires in here. Also the rest with the tack, just like the rest previous, like the previous video. I believe I did that. I'm gonna have to decipher what are these wires. I know one of these oil pressure and whatnot. I gotta figure out what these are. That way I can just run them straight into the Infinity without, what is the plug down here? That way I can run them straight into the infinity without having to use like another sensor. Pretty sure this is this air-fuel ratio. It looks like an O2 sensor. Yeah, so let's figure that out later. Now we can start to feed these wires straight into the bay and then pin them up to the connectors that they have to go to. Alright, so I decided to work on the red and white wire that I tossed out over here. Like I said, I just taped these all together. I like to double check my work before I do that. Also, decided to install this fuse block, which is kind of dirty, but it's fuse block. That way all these power wires can go straight into this, and then one major, probably like a 4 gauge or whatever wire, will just go straight on top of the battery. Most likely into one of these terminals like this. But I think I'll be getting new ones. These look kind of old and weathered. Right, next day here. And I wanted to spend like the entire day on this, so I made sure I double checked all my work yesterday. So today is the day we start to install the sensors. A couple of the wiring harnesses, and so we got my map sensor, oil pressure sensor, air intake temp sensor, a bunch of pins for it. So this should be easy. We have all of our wires here ready, sitting, the old wires and all of the new wires. So everything is double checked, feel confidence with everything, and the injectors and coils, those two. Right, so I guess let's start from the top and work our way from the bottom. Let's work on the coils first. So you can see from this mess of spaghettis up here, we have a bunch of our old wiring harness connectors and a couple new. Right, so mine's is a JDM 4G63, so a lot of these colors and coordinations that they have, you probably can't see it, but this one says red, yellow, black. A lot of these are not correct per se, but the orientation is correct. So because of that, we have to use more or less some common sense and put these together. Right, so as for example, the injectors, you can see they give you a nice little pinout, wire 1, wire 2. This is basically looking at the clips like this. You see in the picture, so that's actually really cool. Super simple the way they did all this stuff. But the only thing, because mine's is a JDM, it's different somewhat. They all have the same concept, one 12-volt power, and then another one is signal, because there's only a 2-pin in here. So you can see the red, and all 4, but each of them, this one is like a pure yellow, this one's a yellow, red, yellow, green, this one's like a blue, yellow. But if you look at the paper, one says white, red, green, red, yeah, orange, yeah. So I guess it's just like the USDM spec of the 4063, but more or less the concept is the same. Just try and go off. If you're doing this for your own engine, try and use your common sense on like reading this diagram. You can see one is power, obviously, and then since these are going to the ECU, these are signals. So boom, boom, power signal. Vice versa for the coils. The coils, we only have 2 coils. If you saw in the video, there's only 2 blue wires over there. Pulled back the other 2. But I kept them just in case if I ever wanted to do 4 individual coils instead of doing the 2 setup. But with the 2 coil setup, I see people get high horsepowers anyway. So same thing, all the wires are in the perfect orientation, but the colors don't match up. So for this one, white would be power, black would be ground, and then there's a blue black on the far left and a blue white on the far left of this one. So you can tell these 2 are signals, but these 2 black and white wires are the same. So signal, power, ground, super simple. So let's go ahead and chop these connectors off and pin them into this one. It's best to get new connectors because when all these connectors get old, they get brittle, and when you try to unpin them, they turn out to be like that. So yeah, definitely have new connectors coming. Right now, so to do the injector wires, we're gonna go ahead and find injector number 1, 2, 3, 4, which one? They're all labeled, so you guys can't see, but they're all labeled. So this one's injector number 1. I'm gonna cut it a bit long here, make sure I have some room just in case if I mess up. And yeah, we're gonna go ahead and pin those into those pins laying down over there, and then throw it inside this connector. All right, one down. Like I said, one signal, one power. Let's go ahead and clip this in. Not all the way, because I can already tell, because it's a custom manifold, it's gonna give me a problem. But yeah, let's go ahead and clip this down the best way we can. Right, so we finished all 4 now. Now you can see we just have our 4 powers. So what the diagram says, we should take it from battery plus. One of these wires are labeled battery plus. I'll figure it out. This one's switch. One of these red wires right here. But because these are out here, I don't want to run them straight through here and then have like a, you know, the harness tied up in between the wall right there. So we're gonna have to cut the battery positive wires inside the car, run the positives out, and that way we can feed both the injectors and the coils. All right, got all these wires tethered together. It's actually 16 gauge wire, my mistake. You can see I also tethered the ground. I'm gonna need this ground cable for the flex fuel sensor, and I might as well ground the coils off of it too, since there's paint on the valve cover. I basically want like the most groundest ground I can get. Needs 12-volt ground, not signal ground, so if it focuses. So let's go ahead and send these wires out, send them to their respective places. All right, got the wires fished up through there and got ahead of myself. So as you can see, we got a mess of red and white. Let me try and decipher these for you. Okay, so just gonna lay these all out for you right here. Okay, so starting with the injectors first. There's one main power wire coming all the way up, and it goes in here. It goes into this crimp right here. So as you can see, this clamp turns into 2, which crimps to the connector. Again, one main wire, crimp to 2. This connector, same thing. That's how you basically run it. You run it, I don't know if it's called parallel or something, but one major wire, tee it off, boom, boom, boom. Super simple until you get to the last one where it's just one wire. I'm gonna go ahead and push all these down for now. I don't want to clip them yet until it's time, but so now for the coils, we have everything labeled here, like the coil 1, coil 2 taped together, and then the ground. Yeah, the ground, and then I send one ground all the way down there for the flex fuel sensor, 2 grounds up here for the coils, 2 power up here for the coils, and 2 signals. Boom. I gotta get down there, work on that flex fuel sensor down there, and then this one red wire all the way over here. The cam sensor is right here, and the crank sensor is right here. So we're gonna go ahead and pin those together with this common power, and then I believe we also need a ground to them too. Sensor ground, we need a sensor ground to them, so let's get that figured out. All right, so before I send power and ground, which I probably already did, but before I send power and ground to the flex fuel sensor and the boost control solenoid, all that stuff, I'll show you guys how to read one of these I guess pinouts for each sensor. So this is the flex fuel sensor booklet. You can tell because it says flex fuel sensor. So you can see by looking at this diagram, you can see this is the pinout 1, 2, and 3. See number 1 is 12 volt. Number 2 is battery ground, and number 3 is sensor output, meaning signal from the ECU wiring harness over there. So that's how I'm basically going about this. Also, that major sensor over there, another example is the boost control solenoid. This one's like a special example. So basically there's 2 wires coming out of this boost control solenoid. You see that they're both brown. Usually if they're the same color, it doesn't really matter which is what. So you can see polarity is unimportant. That's number 1. One wire switch 12 volts, switch to 12 volts outside, and then the other wire is the sensor output. So basically pick one, mount 12 volts to it, pick the other one. Obviously the other one's gonna go straight to the ECU. So that's basically how you would read these sensors. Right, so now we ran our 12 volt wire, which also tees off to the flex fuel sensor. Just gonna run all the sensors, this 12 volt. So you see the cam sensors right here. Might have a real problem entering that connector. Gotta see, it might crack and I don't want that to happen. But yeah, we need 12 volt for this, 12 volt for the crank, which is over here. I'm gonna run this over here and put some heat shielding over it, and tee it off to the boost control solenoid, which I have to mount right here. But I'm gonna make sure I have wires pinned to it before I mount it up. But that's basically that. Let's go ahead and finish all that up. All right, officially wired all of the powers, signals, and grounds. So it's for the boost control solenoid. You can see these 2 wires. Like I said in the beginning, pick one is which one, doesn't matter. It's one needs power, one needs signal. Back over here to the cam and crank. You can see it's all put together nicely. I'll just clip this together. Nice. And the cam over here, I didn't click that one, and I'll have to figure out how we gonna get that in there. But yep. So yeah, that's basically it. Signal grounds. Hopefully there's enough wire left we can run it through to other sensors. I'm pretty sure over there has its own signal ground as well, but we'll probably use that one just in case. Yep, it's a bunch of stretching over the engine bay and whatnot, but we now have these wires to figure out. That whole side is completely situated. You can see the entire loom. I'm gonna have to loom all that up. So yeah, let's work on this side and then work on trying to get these wires to look nice and neat. What do you think, Mike?
It's a lot of wires. A whole lot of wires.
I always gotta put them on the spot.
I don't know why.
Yeah, we just gotta get through it. Just gotta get through it. Just a couple more wires to go. Still have the fuel pressure, the ones that I added, fuel pressure, oil pressure, and then the knock sensor out of that harness on top. And then we could just start wiring with the new sensors. All right, now looking at this diagram, this one will be for our fuel pressure, oil pressure, map sensor. All 3 would use the same diagram. So the white would be the signal, the red would be the 5 volts, and then the signal ground would be the black wire out there that you guys just previously saw. So let's go ahead and put these all together. Right, so now we officially wired up every single sensor we need. That's AEM. We got the AIT sensor, air intake temp. We got the, what is this? I believe this is oil pressure. No, map sensor, sorry. Map sensor. This is the oil pressure. Boom. So now we still have a little bit more signal grounds. We still have one more sensor waiting for the fuel pressure regulator sensor. Well, fuel pressure sensor. We're gonna screw it into the fuel pressure regulator over there. Wait for that sensor to come. And yeah, that's basically it. So now we can start plugging in our sensors. I already started with this one. This one is just a simple oil pressure sensor. Not for the infinity, just for the gauge. Give me like a general view of my oil pressure from my dashboard. You guys remember I have the Pro Sport Evo gauges. This is just a little cheap gauge. Maybe I'll upgrade it down the line. The actual oil pressure signal will be coming from the block, but of course not directly screwed in. You would need to screw to the chassis because the vibrations will destroy the AEM sensor. So make sure we have our Teflon tape, tighten up these fittings nice, and yeah, let's just go through the entire car, adding each sensor with Teflon tape, of course.
For now, the weight is the shape it is.
Yes, this piece is going to be straight. We're not doing any designs on this.
No.
Alright guys, next day here, we have this nice little package from Radium. And this is going to help us, oh that's actually nice. This is going to help us have, give us a spot for our fuel pressure sensor. Radium gave us a little kit. I wish gave, but Radium made this little kit. It came with a little 6-amp adapter with a NPT, I guess 1/8 NPT, so I can screw in my AEM fuel pressure sensor. I really want a fuel pressure sensor. I want to be able to log it to the ECU. It'll be better and safer for the engine. And the little kit also comes with a little gauge, which I thought that was really cool. I always like Radium. Did my little research on the company, but my favorite part about them is that they're black and green. So look at this. This looks like it'll go nice on the bay. Holy crap! Can't wait to get some Teflon tape and screw this in. Ooh, that looks good. All right, let's install this fitting. This is nice. Actually really nice. So we're just gonna store this here. Probably gonna tilt it that way because that looks like nice space for the sensor. But super simple. Unscrew that, screw this on, and we have a port for our sensor. Jeez, that looks nice. Matches the green too. Don't worry about that. Matches the green. This, sheesh, man. The black and the green. That sets it off. So you can see I have another sensor screwed in. Still waiting for this AEM sensor. Should be coming today, but I don't want to leave the fuel system open. So put that in there for now. But yeah, that's that. That sensor. We gotta work on the cam sensor. As you can see, we have no space. So let's just go ahead and fix this up. Now I bought this sensor just to try. It says that it fits Evos or Lancers or whatever. It's a nice little cam sensor. The difference is it mounts this way instead of this way. So hopefully this might work for the 4G63. It's worth a try. If not, we're gonna have to hammer out the engine bay a tiny bit more with like a chisel or something. But I'm gonna try this first. Looks like it gives us enough space. More space than last time, so should be able to plug this in. Alright, got that all screwed up and plugged in there. Definitely a lot more space than last time. Let's hope this works. I was going to end this video off here, but look what just showed up. Our AEM fluid pressure sensor. So I'm going to use this one for fuel. Unscrew that second gauge. This is kind of cool with 2 gauges, but I'm gonna have to end that real quick. Finally, we got this. Again with pins. So let's wire this up. Let's screw out this placeholder. A nice placeholder. And screw in this sensor. Make sure you Teflon tape all NPT fittings. Screw it in until it's nice and tight, and boom, plug it in. Alright, so we have successfully wired every sensor on this engine. Took a long time, like 2 days research. Not really much, just waiting for parts too, but that was really it. But finally done. She looks amazing. Look at all this. That just looks amazing. Okay guys, super hot. Time to get started on the next thing, but you'll see that in the next video. It involves ground wires. But yeah, if we could comment, rate, and subscribe. Let me know if I made this entertaining enough for you. I know wiring can be boring, but I'm trying to make it very detailed, and you guys saw that I wasn't really doing much showing you how to do it. It's just more or less telling you. Every now and then I will show you a little clip, but try to keep it interesting. Really, it's just more head down, focus, plug, crimp wire, you know what I mean? So that's about it. You're gonna head on over to unsystematic.co, get your audio unsystematic needs situated. Comment, rate, and subscribe. Don't forget, never stop modifying.